There are 5 problems with backpacking gear that can't be solved by just buying the newest gear or spending $1,000 or even $5,000. But there are a handful of products out there with game-changing features that can help solve those problems for you and make your backcountry adventures more enjoyable and more comfortable. With most tents, you set up a mesh inner using a pole structure, and then you put a fly on over top of that. The problem with this is that if it's raining, you're gonna get the inside of your tent soaking wet. Trust me, this is not fun, especially if it's cold out. There are 2 solutions to this, with the first one being the simplest, and it involves just getting a tent with an all-in-one pitch like the Durson X-Mid. The fly and the inner are attached, so as you set the tent up, everything just goes up all as one, and the inner stays protected by the fly. The second solution involves having a tent that has pole clips that allow you to set up the fly independently of the inner. With a lot of tents, you can do this if you have a footprint, but the Sea to Summit Telos series of tents is one of the only tents that I've seen that allows you to do it without a footprint. The genius with the Sea to Summit system involves how the inner, the poles, and the fly all attach together. You have this one clip on the inner that the poles can slot into, and then the fly clip just attaches onto that in a really kind of easy to use way. But what's awesome about the fly clip is that the poles can also slot into that clip. So it's a dual function clip, which allows you to set up the fly independently of the inner. When you get to camp, this allows you to set up the fly first and then crawl inside of the nice, dry, protected area and set up the inner of the tent without getting the inner all wet. In order to enter and exit most tents, you have a big door that's embedded within the mesh wall of the inner tent. Usually the mesh wall is not very rigid, and you have a curve in the door to open it up nice and wide. But I find that a curved zipper often gets stuck as you're trying to open and close the door, which is really annoying. It's also one of the few parts of a gear, a curved zipper, that has fully failed on me on a tent. This problem with curved zippers is exacerbated on ultralight tents that use really small, lightweight zippers. It's just a big pain in the butt. For this reason, I've really been enjoying using tents from MSR, Big Agnes, and Durson gear. All of them feature no curve zipper doors. With no curve zipper doors, you need 2 zippers, one to go vertically and one to go horizontally. Some people may think out there that this is going to be more annoying and take longer to use, but I actually find it easier and quicker because I'm not having to navigate the curve in the zipper. Pro tip, as you open the door, open the vertical one first. It allows you to just keep a little bit of pressure on that horizontal zipper and then open up the horizontal one. I feel a lot better about the long-term durability of no curve zippers like this, especially with ultralight tents like the Tiger Wall that I have here that uses ultralight zippers. Electrolytes have also been a game changer for me over the last year as I push myself and try to move the needle in different scenarios and conditions. One of the scarier experiences that I experienced this year where electrolytes really came in handy was when I was hiking in the desert of California where there is no water availability. I was carrying a 40-pound pack and scrambling through some pretty treacherous terrain. A muscle cramp or a lack of focus at the wrong time could have been deadly. By that point, I've been bringing electrolytes from Element, who has been kind enough to sponsor this video, on all of my trips, and it saved me that day by making sure that every sip of precious water was being used effectively, and I was replenishing my electrolytes so I had a clear head and I wasn't cramping. A big reason that Element works so well for me is that I'm a heavy sweater, and Element has 1,000 milligrams of sodium per packet, which is 3 or 4 times more than other electrolyte packets out there. I definitely think Element is worth checking out, and you can get a free sample pack with purchase if you head to the link in the video description or to drinklmnt.com/JustinOutdoors. I've tried dozens of packs, and the biggest issue that I run into is not being able to reach water bottles that are stored in the side pockets of the pack. I polled you guys as well, and with 2,000 responses, 50% of you also experience this problem, which is mind-blowing to me. That's kind of crazy that 50% of people have to be looking to other solutions in order to access water. The 2 most popular solutions for not being able to reach water bottles in the side pocket is probably putting them on your shoulder straps in a water bottle pouch, or using a water bladder or some sort of tube ran from the bottle to the front so you can just sip on the tube. These are great, but there's a couple problems with both of these solutions. With the shoulder strap ones, I don't really like carrying 4.5 pounds of water on my shoulder straps. I rather move that weight to my hips. And then with the tube that comes from the water bottle up to the front, it's harder to keep track of how much water you have in the bottle. And I find that's just annoying to use those tubes. I'd rather just be drinking straight from a water bottle, especially once I get to camp. I do have little hobbit arms and have bad shoulder flexibility due to separating my right shoulder twice and breaking my collarbone on my left shoulder. But brands are starting to address this problem. For instance, Outdoor Vitals with the CS40 pack, they drop the water bottle pocket's a little bit lower, so they're a little bit easier to reach. And then brands like Gregory are putting side entry water bottle pockets into packs like the Gregory Focal, which is another awesome solution. But my favorite feature on a pack that makes reaching water bottles a lot easier is what REI has done with the Flash 55 pack. They put this mesh extra pocket in front of the main side pocket, which makes grabbing your water bottle and putting it back a whole lot easier. You don't need long arms or crazy shoulder flexibility. This dedicated side pocket for a water bottle opens up space in the main side pocket for things like trekking poles or if you're carrying a tripod. It also doesn't interfere with the overall function of the pack, which is really nice. It doesn't kind of poke into your side or anything like that. I don't know why more brands aren't implementing some sort of system like this, or at least innovating in some way. It's, like I said, it blows my mind that 50% of people are unable to reach their water bottles when they're in the side pockets, which in my opinion is the best place for them because you're carrying all that weight, about 5 pounds of weight, right on your hips, which is where the weight is supposed to be. This next feature is something that I thought was a gimmick when I first saw it, but has been super useful in a crazy number of situations for me. The feature is a flashlight, but on a watch. On watches like my Garmin Enduro 2 and my Instinct 2X, they both have flashlights built into the watch. And there's two types of situations where I think this really comes in handy. The first situation is when I'm camping or backpacking and I'm hanging around a campfire or something away from my tent and I forget to grab my headlamp before it gets dark. Boom, light on my wrist. I just turn on the flashlight on my watch and I have a really bright, effective light. Because of how easy it is just to use the flashlight on my watch, I've been finding myself leaving my headlamp and flashlight at home, especially in the summertime when I'm not usually using a light very often anyways. The second kind of group of situations is day-to-day household stuff. Things like taking my dog out for a walk when it's dark out and needing to be able to spot poop on the ground in order to pick it up. Or if I'm trying to change a light bulb in a room or a closet where there's no other light, the flashlight on the watch really comes in handy. I wear a watch 24/7. So having a flashlight right on my wrist has been a game changer for me. What's wrong with this picture or this picture? After you go to bed, you often need to adjust the amount of air in your sleeping pad. I will sometimes let a little bit of air out if the pad is a little bit too hard and I want to soften up a little bit, or I will add some air into the pad if it's cooled off a lot since I initially inflated the sleeping pad. The problem with pads like the XPED Ultra and the REI Helix is that the valves are on the bottom of the pad. So it makes it difficult to adjust the air in the pad once you've gotten on the pad and gone to bed. One of the best features that I've seen on a sleeping pad ever is the valve system from Sea to Summit. It has 2 flaps. You open up one flap in order to inflate the pad, and then you open up the second flap in order to dump all of the air. And there's 3 big benefits with this valve system. First of all, it saves weight because you only need one small valve location as opposed to having an inflation valve and a deflation valve like on the XPED and REI Helix pads. Second, it dumps air very easily relative to some pads that have tried to mimic this system. You open up that second flap and air just dumps out of the pad. It makes it really easy to put the pad away. Number 3, because the valve is flat on top of the pad, it doesn't interfere with your sleep comfort or your pillow, and it makes it really easy to adjust the amount of air in your pad once you're laying on the pad and gone to bed. In order to adjust the air, you open up the first flap and then there's a little button on the valve that you press in order to let air out. Then if you need to add air into the pad, you can just blow into it while you're laying on it and you're gonna be able to add air no problem. Let me know in the comments what a game-changing gear feature has been for you, and then go check out this video if you wanna see my favorite innovative gear that costs under $20. Things like a 6-gram charging cable that can charge any device that you bring with you.